What I've Become. Written by Night Breeze. Read by no one and nobody. Chapter 13.
Come in,
Captain Hazalk said as he tapped a few more buttons on his console.
You wanted to speak with me, Captain?
Agent Illisk asked as he entered the room.
You mind telling me what Subject 38 really is? Or did you want me to lose another 4 soldiers before you admit your mistake?
Hazalk said in a perfectly level tone. Illisk shook his head at these words.
You failed to capture it. I'm extremely disappointed in you, Captain. I was expecting...
When were you going to tell me that it was sapient? Or were you just hoping that I would look the other way as you attempted to sweep this whole thing under the rug?
Hazalk interrupted, his tone still completely level.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't play coy with me, Illisk. Subject 38 has shown the ability to use tools, has gained the support of the natives, and has shown a willingness to fight only as long as it takes to allow for it to escape. It is clearly more than just a monster that the Quinn science team grew in a tank. Unless, of course, it was designed to have sapience in the first place. If that's the case, then they broke an entirely different set of laws,
Captain Hazalk said as he clasped both sets of hands in front of him.
I never knew you were so squeamish, Captain. I thought to expect more from the hero Thana.
Illisk said as he sat down in the chair across from Hazalk.
Don't believe everything you read. In any case, I may have a stomach for war, but this is something else entirely. This breaks so many laws that I don't even know where to start. My men also didn't know what they were getting themselves into, and that cost them their lives. Their blood lies squarely in your hands for not warning me beforehand,
Hazalk said as he stared Agent Illisk down.
Don't give me any of your sanctimonious preaching. I have enough on you to get the death sentence 12 times over, so if you're thinking of taking me down, I'll take you down with me,
Illisk said with a negligent wave of a hand. If this statement worried Hazalk in the slightest, he didn't show it. In fact, Hazalk acted as if Illisk had said nothing at all.
Not only did the Quinn science team break the law, but by doing so they have also put our treaty with the Cusan Empire at risk. And need I remind you what happened last time we went to war with them?
He asked as his eyes narrowed menacingly.
If they find out, the Quinn will cease to exist. And it just so happens that this world sits within Cusan territory. I can understand wanting to put this under wraps, but in order to properly sanitize the crash site, I'm going to need to know what I'm dealing with. I'm willing to work with you here, even get in on your little operation. But first, I need to know what's going on. So I'll ask you again, what is Subject 38?
The two just sat there for what seemed like an eternity, neither of them budging an inch, until finally, Agent Illisk cracked a smile.
Captain, I didn't know you were such a risk-taker. I take back what I said before about you being squeamish,
Illisk said as he leaned back into his chair.
Fine, then. I'll let you in. Subject 38 and its fellows are the first experiment in a new type of warfare. They hail from a backwater, undeveloped world, from which the science team abducted them and modified them to act as the perfect terror weapons. They were designed to be dropped on planets in large groups, to terrorize the planet, so that when our boys showed up, they would be hailed as alien saviors instead of conquering invaders. Even when properly controlled with an MC unit, Subject 38 and its fellows would show an unbelievable level of intelligence and ingenuity, making them the perfect soldiers, and in turn, the perfect weapons.
Were they ever tested?
Hazalk asked slowly.
Yes, and to great effect. They brutally slaughtered anything that would get in their way, and showed great competence in group tactics as well as solo stealth missions. There was but one problem with the design, however,
Illisk said as he leaned forward.
What was that?
Intelligence is what we strove for. It was what made the creature the ultimate weapon, and ultimately what proved the science team's downfall. The team were going to test it on this very planet, but the weapons seemed to develop a resistance to our method of control. We aren't entirely sure what happened, but according to the last data packet we received, the entire stock had simultaneously broken free from their MC units and had proceeded to attempt a takeover of the ship. We don't know what happened next, but I'm sure you can put together the pieces.
Illisk said pointedly.
Yes I can. By the way, just how high up the chain of command does this little experiment go? I'll need to know who will be signing my checks for the foreseeable future.
Captain Hazalk said pointedly.
Majesty Quasar, but no higher. I doubt the hierarch or the chief of staff are even aware of the real purpose of our mission.
Agent Illisk said as he leaned back again.
And that is all I needed to hear. Agent Illisk, you are under arrest for war crimes and for being an accomplice to this entire affair.
Captain Hazalk said as he rose from his chair.
What? Captain, you're making a mistake. If I'm going down, you are going down too. And believe me, your ledger is far more red than mine.
Agent Illisk said as he sprang to his feet.
Don't make me laugh, Illisk. The hierarch is well aware of every detail of my past, and unlike you, I have his blessing. Didn't you get the memo?
Hazalk asked as he quirked his head to one side. Hazalk then strode towards a nearby cabinet and began to pour himself a drink. He just barely raised the glass to his mandibles, however, when a burst of plasma fire struck him repeatedly from behind, throwing him into the liquor cabinet and smashing it to pieces.
I must have missed it,
Illisk said cockily as he stepped towards the smoking body in front of him. However, as he raised his pistol to finish the job, the door behind him hissed open to reveal 2 armed Kryn soldiers, their weapons at the ready.
Troopers, you're just in time. Take this treacherous swine down to the brig. He was trying to...
Illisk started to say, but was interrupted when one of the soldiers smacked him in the head with the butt of his weapon.
The only traitor here is you, Illisk,
Captain Hazalk said with a gasp.
Did you really think that I would confront you without a contingency plan? The whole ship heard you confess and shoot me. Take him away, and get medical up here as soon as possible. My vest failed when the scum shot me. If only I had my camera.
Hazalk thought as Private Vala grabbed Illisk by the scruff of his collar.
That look on his face is simply priceless.
Ow. My everything.
I thought as my mind slowly became aware that it was awake. I tried to move, but my arms just didn't seem to be up to the task. Neither did my eyelids, for that matter, but I knew that I couldn't just fall back to sleep. Not when my throat was as parched as Death Valley. I attempted to stick out my tongue to lick my super dry lips, though my tongue didn't seem to want to work either. In fact, I was having trouble even opening my mouth, as strange as that might sound. Speaking of sound, I found that I couldn't hear anything either. Well, that wasn't exactly true. I could hear things, but it was as if everything was muffled, almost as if I were wearing earplugs. I seemed to be lying on something soft, with what felt like a pillow underneath my head. I wasn't too certain about that, though, because it felt as if my sense of touch was off as well. It kind of felt like my whole body had fallen asleep, everything being a close approximation of feeling rather than the actual thing. There seemed to be someone in the room with me, though who they were wasn't something I could figure out at the moment. I tried to ask for help, but was foiled in my attempt as unconsciousness pulled me back into its sweet embrace. I became aware again when someone started messing with my bedspread. I wasn't sure what they were doing, but whatever it was keeping me from sleep. I tried opening my eyes again to see who it was, and instantly regretted it. Everything was just so bright that I had no choice but to close my eyes and groan in pain.
Why is the world on fire?
I asked in a raspy voice as I rubbed my eyes with a shaky, jerking hand. Something about what just happened didn't sit right with me, but for some reason I couldn't understand what it was. Someone close by said something, but whatever they said was beyond my understanding. My ears still felt like there was cotton stuffed in them, however, so you can hardly blame me for that one.
Can you help me? I seem to be having trouble with my everything,
I said as I rubbed my weak, shaking hand over the rest of my face. My hand froze, though, when I encountered a familiar, yet alien structure in the center of my face. It was small, round, and seemed to have 2 small holes on its underside. Wait a second. Slowly the clues started falling in place, but I refused to believe it. Was it all a dream? A nightmare? A coma from an accident? I thought as I tried to push myself into a sitting position. Someone nearby was shouting something, but my mind didn't even register the noise as my muscles strained against my weight. Ultimately, I gave up and flopped back down into the downy softness underneath me, unable to even lift myself. What on earth happened? Was there a car crash? No, I was probably poisoned. That would explain the bizarre coma dream. Valerie probably rushed me to the hospital when she found me. However, as I allowed myself to sink in further into the belief that I was home, a hoof touched my shoulder, instantly shattering the illusion that I had constructed for myself. How did I know it was a hoof and not something else? Well, once you've been hugged by not just one but two equines, the sensation is kind of hard to forget. Their hooves were hard but covered in short, coarse hair. This created an odd, dissonant feeling whenever they touched my bare skin. As interesting as all of this was, it was still beside the point. I was still on this weird equine planet, light years away from home. As disappointing as that was, I couldn't bring myself to get worked up about it, or even care. I had awoken so many times in the past months in the exact same circumstance, believing a dream of home only to have it torn from me by the cruel hands of reality. By this point, it had almost become the norm. There was something different about it this time. Not only did I have a nose again, but if my fingers could be believed, eyelashes, eyebrows, and proper eyelids as well. The hair felt extremely fine, though, almost like a newborn baby's hair. As I moved my hand lower, I started crying when I discovered that not only were the fangs gone, but I also had lips again as well. However, as I continued to explore my new face, something terrible began to happen. My arm, which up until this point had been dutifully following my every command, began to twitch and thrash, accidentally smacking whoever was nearby. Not to be outdone, my other arm began to join in, followed closely by my legs as they decided to get in on this action. I tried to call out for help, but all I could manage was a strangled scream as pain shot through my entire brain. My pain was so great that I wasn't even aware of the hooves holding me down, or the needle that was inserted into my arm. Unconsciousness claimed me soon afterwards. I don't really know when I became aware of the voices in my room, but I had been listening to their strange musical words for quite some time before I realized I was awake again. I groggily opened my eyes, only to shut them again almost instantly.
Man, why is everything so bright?
I grumbled as I raised my hand to my face. Or at least I tried to. Instead of obediently reaching my face and rubbing my aching eyes, my hand stopped as it jerked against the padded restraints holding me to the bed. This confused me at first, causing the more paranoid parts of my psyche to come to bear as I tugged against the restraints. The fear soon left, however, when a gentle hoof touched my shoulder, and a female voice hushed something nearby. Rational thought soon followed when I remembered what had happened earlier.
They probably restrained me to keep me from hurting myself,
I thought ruefully to myself.
But why did I go into a fit in the first place? Where am I? Come on, eyes, work! It's not like you're my most important sense or anything.
I tried to open my eyes again, only to shut them again in pain.
Why can't I open my eyes? Why is it such a chore?
I asked, not really expecting an answer. If the mare next to me gave one, it certainly wasn't in a language that I could understand. Someone else came into the room at that moment, but seeing that I was effectively blind, I couldn't really tell who or what it was. They talked with whoever was nearby, the voice sounding male in my ears, then left in a hurry.
He's going to bring back someone to translate, right?
I asked. I knew she couldn't understand me, but that was the reason why I had spoken.
You don't really appreciate the ability to speak until it's been stolen from you. Seriously, it's been 6 months, and the only voices I've heard have been the voices in my own head. And let me tell you right now, they are as boring as jellyless peanut butter sandwiches.
On and on I went, but after what seemed like an insane amount of inane banter, I eventually fell silent, letting my poor nurse have a rest for my bout of chattiness. After all, as fun as it was to talk to the mare in the room, there was only so much a guy could say before he became bored with the one-sided conversation. Besides, talking itself had become tiring, almost as if I had never used those particular muscles before.
That makes sense, though. Whatever they did to me regrew the missing parts of my face. It only stands to reason that those new facial features act as if I have never used them before, simply because I haven't used them before,
I thought as the door opened again. Whoever had entered seemed to be female, judging purely by the quality of her voice. She sounded familiar to me somehow, though I wasn't really sure where I knew her from. This was surprising, seeing as how I was only familiar with 8 of the natives, 7 of which seemed to be mares. This made the pool of people she could possibly be very small, and I was certain that her voice didn't match any of them. She said something to my nurse, and I heard her say something that sounded like an acknowledgement. She then left the room, closing the door softly behind her. My ears picked up the telltale hum of spellwork, and soon afterwards my throat and ears began to tingle.
Must be doing what started,
I thought to myself as the mare cleared her throat.
"Greetings. You have understanding towards me?" she asked uncertainly.
Yeah, I understand. Mostly,
I said wryly.
"Good. Spell not perfect. Understanding not perfect. We teach later, say as tongue, yes?"
she asked carefully.
Yes,
I answered hesitantly. I couldn't be certain, but it sounded as if she wanted to teach me her language. I was okay with this, seeing as how our only method of communication was shaky at best, and a complete train wreck at worst.
"Good. Lessons happen later. Happen questions now. We ask much, you ask much. Much learn, much grow, yes?"
she asked briskly.
Okay. Why does it hurt when I open my eyes?
I asked, fearful of what the answer would be. She hesitated at first, taking a second to inhale deeply, almost as if she was steadying herself for something.
"You burn badly. Incredibly badly. Try heal. Almost die. Use spell that grow back lost. 2 instructions follow. Original follow, not broken instructions. Spell nearly kill. Old instructions take over. Reject everything done. Reject eyes. Reject tongue. Reject teeth. Reject strength. Try grow new in old place,"
she said apologetically. I just sat there, my eyes closed as I listened to her explain what had happened through the broken translation. It was hard, but if I understood her correctly, then it sounded as if they had used some sort of weird healing spell to patch me up after the fight. It also sounded as if there had been some complications, and that I had almost died as a result.
But did she mean what I thought she meant when she said that these instructions rejected my body parts? What exactly are these instructions that you were talking about? And what do you mean when you said that they rejected my eyes, tongue, teeth, and strength?
I asked carefully.
"We know monsters take you, change you, give body new instructions. When spell cast, body revert old instructions. Nothing in instructions about claws, eyes fake, been replaced. Teeth different instructions too, as tongue different instructions. Body think alien, is alien. Attack, kill, remove body from body. Spell force body regrow new in place of old. Force us cut, remove fake devices before kill. Still attacking alien fakes," she said apologetically.
Well, by the way she was describing what had happened, these instructions sounded an awful lot like DNA. I wasn't a doctor by any stretch of the imagination, but I had watched enough Bill Nye as a kid to know a little about how genetic code worked. If she was saying what I thought she was saying, then it meant whatever magic they worked on me had fixed the damage that the aliens had done to my DNA. That correction had apparently come at a great cost, however. From the sound of it, my body had then mistaken itself as a foreign entity, and had done its best to defend itself from itself. That would have been hilarious had it not happened to me. Since it did happen to me, I nearly crapped myself in terror then and there.
"Well, it's a good thing your magic was there to get me out of the woods then,"
I said in a fake jovial voice.
"Yes and no. Not done yet. Body still attack arms, legs, try kill arms, legs. We slow, attempt fix, but may need remove and regrow. That we not want. Have relearn everything, in bed for months. Limbs regrow, still could die. No, not done yet. Not safe," she said ominously.
I just gulped at that, as I tried desperately to hold on to my bladder. That right there was probably the scariest thing I had ever heard someone say. It certainly explained why I was strapped in, why I had gone into convulsions earlier, and why my arms and legs felt so weak and shaky. If my body was still busy attacking itself, then it was a miracle that I wasn't thrashing and howling in pain right now. Whatever they had me on must work, though, because all I felt right now was a dull ache, as compared to the white-hot agony that I had felt earlier. However, as terrible as all that was, it was a paradise compared to the living nightmare that my life had been for the past 6 months. I could now look forward to a nice warm bed, 3 square meals, and a fresh supply of water. I didn't have to hunt for my food, and if I managed to get some money, I could get some clothes as well. Sure, there was the threat that my body would kill itself as it attempted to repair and regenerate, but that was just the chance of death. It wasn't certain, and I probably had a pretty good chance at surviving. Out in the wild, though, death was a certainty. I had absolutely no illusions about my ability to survive the winter, despite my can-do, will-survive attitude. I had only just barely made a pair of pants, and those hadn't exactly been the epitome of warmth. On top of that, I could now speak as well. Not just speak, either, but communicate. That alone was worth any risk. Honestly, I was still having trouble convincing myself that this wasn't some sort of dream. However, as the minutes passed by in silence, it became increasingly obvious that it wasn't. This was the real deal.
"Thank you,"
I said, as I softly began to cry. She didn't say anything at first, almost as if she was shocked that I had shown gratitude for the pain and suffering that I was going through.
"You're welcome,"
she finally said. We just sat there for a while, as I tried to get my emotions under control. After what seemed like an eternity, I finally managed to get a hold of myself long enough to ask another question.
"I don't believe I ever got your name."
"Moon. What yours?" she asked in reply.
"My name's Alex,"
I said, as the first smile I had made in months appeared on my face. If you're enjoying this reading, consider checking out the non-copyright infringement version available on Amazon Prime. See link in video details for more information.